On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Mechanize by Fear Factory. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we're talking about Mechanize by Fear Factory. It came out in 2010. This is the second Fear Factory album that we've listened to.
Yes.
It's been a very long time since we listened to Fear Factory the last time.
Obsolete was
on
the last one.
This program. I think that was back in 2018. Probably we listened to that album.
Might have been, yeah.
It was one of the among the first handful of albums that you brought.
Yes.
But we'll talk more about Mechanize later on. First, how you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, if I may say so myself.
If you may say so, you're allowed to.
Okay, all right.
In fact, if you felt like you couldn't say you were feeling you were doing well, I'd be concerned.
Okay.
I'm glad that that you feel comfortable saying you're doing well.
Yeah. I'm safe at home. I mean, when I'm at home, everything is safe. I don't have to any worries in that direction.
Okay. Cool. You up to anything?
What am I up to?
We're recording on a Sunday.
Yeah, that's true.
There was some miscommunication about what albums we were going to be listening to, and we're like, you know what? We'll just listen to the same one and then record on Sunday. So it's a Sunday afternoon. You got your shorts on.
I got swim trunks.
You got swim trunks on.
Swim trunks.
Were you at the pool?
Okay. I was gonna meet some people at the splash pad. At Oak Park, but we sort of missed our communication there as well.
Yeah. Well, because we'll record on Sunday because we're not playing D&D, and I assumed that you would be here at 4 because that's when D&D normally starts. Like a, this is a thing we're doing in lieu of D&D being there.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I was thinking 7 because we usually do it at 7.
Yeah, and that's understandable as well. So we met sort of in the middle at 5 p.m.
Right.
It's a nice Sunday afternoon. I've had a headache most of the day. It's mostly gone away at this point. I had to take a nap, and that was helpful.
Good.
I sat in the sun for a little bit.
You've become part cat now, haven't you?
Yeah, no, yeah. I did. I think I always have been. It's just become more apparent now that there is a cat to compare me to.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the big thing that I've been doing is that Shadow of the Erdtree came out. Right. Elden Ring DLC. And boy, those sure are some bosses in there.
Really?
I'm really enjoying exploring around to the extent that I'm able to explore around at this point in it. Because they're unlike the main game where you can explore the vast majority of the map before you run into a boss that's going to stop you from getting any further.
Right. You can avoid blood. I mean, once you
you can go all the way around Stormvale. You can explore all of Caelid. You can go around Storm. You can explore all of Limgrave and Caelid. You can go around
Weeping
Stormvale. Go up to Liurnia, and I think no matter what, there's a boss in between you and getting to Altus Plateau, because there's the shit that you can climb up, like the mine you can go through.
Right.
And there's a magma worm up there, which is technically a boss. Yeah. Not a named character boss, but he's got a health bar.
And unless, of course, you find that the Dectus lift halves.
You can't. I feel like
you don't have to.
We've had this discussion before. I've always been under the impression that one of those halves is locked behind a boss.
No, one of them is at what's the one with the giant sleeping dragon? That's Fort.
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name of it.
Yeah, it's upstairs in a chest on that one, and then Fort Ferroth, I believe, is where the other one is upstairs.
I thought
in the chest.
I thought one of those. I don't know.
It is true for the Halleck tree. You do have to beat a boss for half of that.
But anyway, whatever the case is, you can explore the vast majority of the base game without having to beat like a single really big, difficult boss. There's not a lot of the shadowed lands to explore before you run into a boss that will prevent you from getting to the rest of the stuff. And
is it a tough boss?
There's two of them. Well, okay, one of them I thought was going to be a gateway into a larger area that I could then explore, and that is not the case. Like you beat them, and then you can walk up these stairs, and then there's the classic. There's a door there, but there's a bunch of vines covering the door, and you can't go through it. And then there's a little letter that's left to it. It's like, go the other way. You know, where the other boss is barring your path of exploration here. So the one that I managed to beat with some help from one of my friends, I get by with a little help from my friends.
Yeah, do you get high with a little help from your friends?
Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, last night I managed to beat the boss that didn't lead anywhere. And then the one that's in the way, the other way, is probably, I would describe her as a fusion between Lady Maria from Bloodborne and Loretta, Knight of the Hatlig Tree.
So she's on a horse?
She's not on a horse, but she's like a sorcerer.
Okay.
So she's using all kinds of glintstone or glint blade spells. She's dual wielding swords, and she never ever stops attacking unless she is casting a spell as she's slowly walking towards you. And then the moment you get close enough, then she moves to try. Like her attack patterns are so relentless that I feel so entirely overwhelmed. And then her second stage is fucking insane, where then it turns into a fusion of like Lady Maria and Pontiff Sulivan from Dark Souls 3.
Okay.
Because one of her swords is on fire, and she does this insane like twirling jump that's very Lady Maria-esque, and it's her armor is awesome looking. Her swords look really cool. She's just insanely difficult, and I do not feel at all capable of. I don't feel capable of beating her without.
You don't have an option to go somewhere else and level up.
Nope. Well, and also leveling up doesn't. I don't think will really help all that much because of the way that the scaling works in the DLC. And I can't do their bespoke like scaling system because I can't explore anymore to find the items, more of the items that will help me.
Right.
Like you have to find the fucked up tree that's in the Shadowed Realms. Is called the Skadu tree. And you find fragments of that, and that's what makes you more durable and hit harder in that realm. Like it only works there. That blessing only works there. And then you can find revered spirit ashes that make torrent and your spirit summons more powerful.
All right.
But those are limited items that you have to find around the map. And if you can't explore any more of the map,
it's moot.
You're not going to find. So, I mean, the answer is just get good. But she just like. There have been a number of other FromSoft games where I have played where I hit a wall with a very hard boss, but for some reason I feel more comfortable. I feel more capable of like locking in and just being like, okay, I'm going to learn this boss's attack pattern. For some reason, when it comes to Elden Ring, the knowledge that I could be going and doing something else somewhere else in theory makes it harder for me to like really focus.
Right.
And the other thing is like in earlier games, like, yeah, there have been some really difficult bosses that I have overcome. Like I beat Lady Maria eventually. Took a ton of tries, but I did it, and fighting her didn't feel anywhere near as overwhelming as this boss.
Really?
Like Lady Maria is very difficult, but for whatever reason, it felt like watching her and fighting her. I was like, okay, I can tell what she's doing. I just need to get the timing right. And like the attack chains were much shorter. Like, you know, this has been a thing. One could perhaps call it a problem in Elden Ring, where there are a number of bosses who have insanely long attack chains, where it will be like a 15 move combo. And it's like, there's no window in between any of these attacks for me to do anything. I just have to dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge and dodge. And oh, here's my little window. And if you get hit anywhere in there, you fucked. You've fucked yourself. And it's, I don't know. It just doesn't feel very doable. And it feels like it doesn't bode well, because she's potentially the first named boss you can encounter. And to be fair, this is very much in line with the way that FromSoft has done their DLCs in the past, where their DLCs are always significantly more difficult. And it feels like maybe part of the reason why I'm having so much difficulty, both like with the mechanics and with the just being able to like focus and like, okay, just sit through it, learn the patterns and get done with it, is because I've had no build up to it. Right. Because I was like, oh, hey, I can start this with my character that I already have, that's of a supposedly appropriate level to start this. Like I can just do this. I don't have to do a whole playthrough up until beating Moog. Like I don't have to make a new character, but that means that I don't have all of that like experience and sort of my vocabulary just disappeared. It just my whole vocab. There's a big book and it lit on fire. No, I just don't have the resilience built up from that you might get from a whole playthrough. Right. And I tried like changing builds a little bit, and that didn't feel like it helped all that much. And
so you're fighting Moog again?
No. What I'm saying is I didn't do that, because the way to get to the DLC is you have to defeat Moog. Right. And so I didn't start a new playthrough to get all the way there. I'm playing with a character that has killed the Elden Beast. Right. And just has not started a new game plus cycle. Like you can, if you had killed the Elden Beast, you can load that character and teleport around the map just fine. That's always been the case. Right. So I thought maybe that would, be the case. Like you could start the DLC, and I was right. But it also means that I have a ton of rust to knock off of my reflexes when it comes to Elden Ring. And I don't know if I ever was actually all that good at the game and was instead just relying on some very overpowered items, which I'm fine with when it comes to Elden Ring. Like, they give you all those tools. I don't care if they're busted. Like I'm going to I'm going to do what I can to not have a horrible time. Right. If I'm having more fun with the game by using these items that compensate for my lack of skill, I don't give a shit if that somehow makes me not like if that makes me a scrub or whatever the fuck someone might say, like get good at the, like, no, I don't have to. Right. But like, now I do. But now I have to, though, because of the DLC.
Do you have the weapons you ended with? Or?
Yeah, I have everything. It's all the stuff I ended with, and they amount to jack shit compared to the bosses in the DLC.
Wow.
None of those bosses give a shit about how overpowered your build was. They're all insane. Like all of them. The one that I did manage to kill with help from one of my friends, almost every single move that boss had two-shot my character.
Sure.
50 vigor, reasonably heavy armor. If you get hit once, you're down to half health. You get hit again, you're dead. And most of the attacks that it did, if you get hit once, you're going to get staggered hard enough that you're guaranteed to get hit the second time. Which that's a thing that I hate that when it happens in games.
Right.
Where like, if you don't have quite enough HP, getting hit once guarantees that you're going to get hit a second time. And if you know that, it's like, stop wasting my fucking time. Just make it a one-hit kill. Why are you making me watch the whole fucking stagger animation? I know I'm going to die. I can't. There's no way I can get. It happened to me a ton in God of War Ragnarok.
Sure.
And it made me I got very tilted at that game. But anyway.
Did you ever beat Ragnarok?
Yeah, I beat Ragnarok. I never bothered with all the Berserkers the same way that I never bothered with the Valkyries in the first one.
The Berserkers are hard.
The Berserkers are very hard. I found the Valkyries very difficult as well, but I also never really bothered. And in those games, there are difficulty settings that you can change at will, but I didn't want to. I completed the entire rest of the game on the same difficulty, so I didn't want to have to lower it for a specific event. But yeah, I don't know. It's you don't have that option in Elden Ring.
Right. There's just one setting, one level.
And it's like comparing it to another the other most recent FromSoft game being Armored Core. One of the things that I really like about Armored Core, despite the fact that I haven't finished it, me not finishing Armored Core is just because there was other shiny, less to do with, it being too hard. The Armored Core's difficulty feels a little bit less terrible because if you're struggling with a boss because you don't quite have the right build, it's so easy to just change. There's no limited number of items that you have to go and take to a specific place the way that respecking works in Elden Ring. If you're out of larval tears, you're shit out of luck. Go play a new character or beg one of your friends to pop into your world and drop them for you. If you're struggling in Armored Core, just go back to your fucking garage or replay a couple of easy missions and make some money and buy some new parts.
Sure.
And literally change the physical build of your robot.
Right.
That's something that I did several times, and that's the way you're supposed to play the game. But it's much more difficult to do that successfully in Elden Ring. And that's...
I've never used the respec option. Never gone to Renala and had her do that.
I feel like, I like that FromSoft has not bowed to pressure regarding difficulty.
Right.
But I think it would only be a good thing if they made respecking characters consequence free. If you could just you find, maybe if it's something that's available from the start of the game, hey, there's this thing that you can do. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can do it as many times as you want. I think that would be a good compromise, because as it is, it's kind of, it's difficult to do, especially if you're doing something radically different where then you have to find new weapons and upgrade those weapons all the way.
Right.
And I don't know. It's, it's one of those things where it's it's good and I want to love it, but I'm just having a very difficult time with it, and it's making it hard for me to enjoy it.
Right.
And it's also weird because even the just random ass fucking minion level enemies that are spread around the map, those guys will like potentially two-shot a character. Like that I don't understand. Like usually not the like, you know, you've got your basic minions where they're like probably the same size as your character or a little bit smaller even. Those guys won't two-shot you, but anything bigger than that, like the, you know, the heavy minions, you could call them, where like, this is a guy who's clearly wearing some armor and he's got like a shield or whatever and like an axe, but he's not, you know, he's not like thinking about the tiers. Like you have your basic soldier, then you have like your heavy soldier, and then you've got the knight. The heavy soldiers will two-shot you.
Sheesh.
And that I don't quite get. Like that, it makes exploring areas very difficult. I don't know, man. I could talk about it for a long time. And I have. I have talked about it for a long time.
Yeah.
So you know what else we could talk about instead?
What's that?
Is Mechanize by Fear Factory.
Sure.
So this album came out in 2010. So there's a bit of an interesting story when it comes to this album, because Fear Factory had been on a bit of a hiatus before this album came out. The band had kind of broken up more or less. The 2 albums previous to this had been recorded without Dino Cazares,
which is weird.
And then in 2000, like they went on hiatus, and then in 2009. Or earlier in 2010, Dino Cazares announced that there is a new project that's going to be, he's part of a new project that's going to be making music that includes himself and Gene Hoglan and Byron Stroud and the vocalist of Fear Factory, Burton C. Bell, and it's called Fear Factory. Excluding the other 2 original member, or not one of them wasn't an original member, but had been a longtime member since the early days of the band.
Christian Olde-Wolbers and
Wolbers was the one that was not an original member, but had been in the band for a very long time, to the degree that the 4 of them collectively, Burton C. Bell, Dino Cazares, and the other 2 were considered, you know, they were the owners of Fear Factory as a brand. And then 2 of them were just like, yeah, we're just going to make a new thing and call it the same thing. And so there has been kind of a conflict about that ever since.
Right. Like Ray Herrera is the other.
I'm trying to remember here.
The drummer.
Is it Herrera or was it something else? The Wikipedia page is too long.
A lot of story there.
Yes, Ray Herrera. Yeah. You're correct. Raymond. Only his friends call him Ray.
Yeah, it's just us.
Just us, his friends. So, yeah, there's like that feels weird, but also seemingly, you know, Bell and Cazares are kind of the core of the band, as it would seem.
Right.
I did not and have not listened to the 2 albums previous to this that were without Cazares.
Here's the thing. I've only kind of listened to them.
Yeah.
I've listened to them like once or twice each. But I mean,
one of them I read was regarded as like a return to form for them. So I don't necessarily know what that means. But
that's true. I mean, they sort of strayed away from what they originally intended to do over the years. Like when the album prior to those that came out. Why am I forgetting the name of it?
I don't know.
It's the one where it's the blue human inside of a microchip cover. The one from 2000. Digimortal. Thank you. Yeah, that one was. I mean. The guy who appears on that, it's one of the guys from Cypress Hill. I don't does vocals on one of the songs.
Huh. Weird.
I enjoyed the album, but I thought it just doesn't really feel like Fear Factory anymore.
Yeah. So what feels like Fear Factory, by the way, is a very intense mix of like industrial metal, a very extreme variety of industrial metal, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And that has been their hallmark. Bits of noise and all of the smaller genres that are always associated with industrial metal. Like I feel like every industrial metal band also has they also have elements of noise music and this, and it's like that's you might as well just say that's part of industrial metal, period, and not even bother listing like their other influences. Like, no, we understand that's what an industrial metal band is. Like, you can't have that without those other things.
It's industrial metal, but they also have guitars and there's drum machines and sometimes there's vocals.
Yeah. But this album then came out after that happened.
Right.
I picked up in a weird spot. I don't even know.
You don't even know where you were going prior to that.
The headache recovery is still happening.
Yeah.
Brain not work so good. They came out with this. This is one of the many projects that Gene Hoglan has been involved in just briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, is there something about Gene Hoglan where like a reason why he never sticks with projects, or is it just that because that's his thing?
There have been a couple of projects he's stuck with,
I suppose.
I mean, Dark Angel he was in.
Oh yeah.
He was also in Strapping Young Lad.
Yeah, and there was a Strapping Young Lad, I think, is sort of deeply tied to Fear Factory in a couple of ways. There's a lot of cross-pollination with members in both projects being a part of other side projects and whatnot. So I forget about Strapping Young Lad a fair amount.
I think Reese Fulber had something to do with both bands, like as a producer and somebody who did samples and whatnot.
Well, and they're similar enough in style, I think, as well. They're both weird. You mean Devin Townsend did something weird for a long time? What? He's still doing weird stuff.
He is, but you know what? Millions and millions of people
enjoy it.
Really enjoy it. Yeah.
No, it's absolutely nothing against Devin Townsend. He makes great music, but anyway. So this album has some particular significance for you. Do you want to explain that?
I mean, it's all about timing, because this came out and then a few months later, my home was destroyed.
I mean, essentially, yes.
Yeah.
They didn't knock the whole structure down, as I understand.
They did not.
But it certainly wasn't able to be lived in for a while.
Because it was underwater.
Because, there was lots of water there, as there was in a full third of the city we live in.
Yep. Because it's in a valley that a river goes through. And
the summer of 2011 in Minot, North Dakota was a bad time.
A bad time.
A bad time was had by all. Things were also not super fun along the Missouri River as well.
Right.
But less people live in the floodplain there collectively than do in Minot.
Yeah, so I was homeless, and I spun the CD an awful lot.
Yeah. Was there any reason other than it was just one of the ones you had, or was there something about it you think that got you stuck on it?
Well, I mean, it was one of those things where it had a lot of energy, and it made me pound my fists a lot, and I was already angry about the fact that my family's been split up. I'm living under a desk or in a tent trailer or some dive hotel.
It's cathartic.
Yeah, this is very cathartic for me. There's one song on here I listen to over and over.
Yeah. I'm going to say, is that your favorite song?
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit. Does this album slap?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's very safe to say that it does slap. This is very heavy. It feels maybe a little bit more straightforward than I remember Obsolete having been. Obsolete felt a little bit more, at least I remember it. Again, this is my memories from 6 years ago or thereabouts.
Yeah.
So I haven't listened to it since then, but I remember it feeling a bit more crazy and a bit more experimental and out there when it came to certain songwriting choices. And this felt a bit more conventional, but still very much in the realm of, weird industrial metal.
And I feel like a lot I've made you listen to some crazy shit over the last 6 years.
So
the perspective has changed.
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility as well. On Metacritic, this album has a 70%, which really? I feel is low.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that is low. And I wonder if some of the weirdness surrounding the production of this album and the controversy. I don't know if it was a big deal at the time necessarily in like metal publications and whatnot, but I wonder if maybe that colored some of the reviews a bit of reviewers being like, the music is good, but there's weird stuff happening in the band, and maybe that subconsciously made things different for people. I don't know. I think it ought to have gotten higher than that. I think it at least deserves like an 80. Like so many of the albums that we listen to that we enjoy, they usually end up being around an 80 of like, hey, this is good. Almost always they're about an 80, and I think this fits into that category of like this is very good. This is very well produced. I think 70 is too low for it. What's your favorite song?
Power Shifter is my favorite
Power
song.
Shifter.
Yeah.
My favorite song, predictably, is Final Exit.
Yeah, of course it is.
Of course it is. Partially because it felt so unexpected to me for a Fear Factory song. I don't know if they have too many other songs in their discography that are like it, but I haven't heard them. Compared to what I had heard from Fear Factory, both on this album and on the previous album of theirs we listened to, it felt very different. Not so different that it's like obvious, like they're suddenly a different band, but it was like, oh, it's cool that they can go in that direction. Yeah. I like this sound. I like the way that they're doing this. It felt like a welcome surprise from them that I felt was enjoyable. As I was going to take a nap, I had that sort of softer kind of riff, or not the piano. I had that piano riff in my head as I was trying to take a nap and trying to get rid of this headache that's been bugging me for most of the day. I enjoy that. And there's definitely sections of that song that feel more like a typical Fear Factory song. Right. It's just sort of sandwiched in between this like remarkably emotive bits.
Song about dying.
Yeah. It's a song about voluntary euthanasia specifically is what it's about. Which that's a weird, uncomfortable, morose subject, but it's one that the times that it has come up and I've like read about it and it's always interesting. It interests me that it's a thing that's out there in the world and in some other countries where it's like, you can do that. You're
talking about children in the Far East doing work for no pay, right?
Volunteering youth in Asia. That's the joke. If you didn't get it out there, that's the joke. And no, that's not what I was talking about. So what metal... You son of a bitch. What metal are you bestowing upon this like Maskanata to Chewbacca?
I mean, for personal reasons, it's a gold.
Yeah, I would give this a high silver. I definitely enjoyed this. But I don't know if I would give it a gold. personally. But before we talk about what we want to listen to next week, I thought we'd take a couple of minutes to talk about a local band here in Minot.
Good local band.
It's been around for a number of years, at least since I was about a senior in college. I think so, back in like 2018. They're called Opposition Out. They're guys that both of us know for different reasons, though I think you know some of the members of the band more personally than I do.
At least the singer. I've known him since he was in elementary school.
Yeah. I first ran into these guys. I ran into them.
Yeah, with their car.
No. My classmate Katie was giving her senior presentation, and it was all about metal logos because she was like graphic design student, and they performed after her because it was at Pangea House, which was a art space and music venue at the time.
Right, and they had coffee too, didn't they?
Did they? I think you could. I don't know if there was like a shop. Right. There. I don't remember there being one. There might have been one upstairs.
Right.
But in any case, they were performing there, and sort of, I think they did a cover of an A Day to Remember song, and I knew the lyrics to it, and so I was singing along, and they're like, "Hey, do you want a microphone?" I was like, "Sure." And then they were doing another show there like a couple months later, and like, "Do you want to just come up and do like ahead of time?" The guitarist asked me like, "Hey, do you want to like just come up and do the whole song with us?" And I was like, "Sure." This was also by the time that I had like stopped doing metal vocals, so I was a little out of practice. But like that was fun. It was a Ghost Bath show that I went to back when that they opened. I'm just happy to see that there's a local band in Minot that's still performing.
Right.
They got an EP out. It's called Volume 2.
Right. What would you call it, an EP? I mean, it's 6 songs.
I would call it an EP. It's closing in on album length, but
22 minutes.
Yeah, it's 22 minutes though.
Right.
So it's a little nebulous, but I'd call it an EP. Spotify calls it an EP.
Sure.
So
I'm not sure what Amazon was calling it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I guess what we're saying is, if you want to listen to it, you can hear it on Spotify and Amazon.
It's available on both platforms.
It is.
And I'm sure it's available to purchase, I assume, through Apple Music. Good way to just support a local band. I would describe them as being like a metalcore band.
Yeah. With other elements.
Yeah, definitely other elements for sure. Like there's, most of the songs I remember having a pretty heavy breakdown in there. That's sort of metalcore hallmark, but a variety of different styles. There's one song that feels very almost like Metallica-esque. Like the guitar tone, especially the vocals a little bit. The vocalist has a remarkable amount of range, I would say. Like it seems to be comfortable with a wide variety of different styles.
That'd be Mr. Bob Campbell there.
So yeah, no, I was quite impressed with the like number of different styles that he was able to pull off. And so yeah, if you want to support a local North Dakota metal band, go check out Volume 2 by Opposition Out.
Or sometimes they're called Opt Out. If you saw that, but yeah, Opposition Out is what you want to search
for. Yeah, it's the full. I have a T-shirt of theirs.
Yeah,
that my cat has partially ripped apart. But anyhow, next week, what I want to talk about is a album with a very wordy title called I can't read my own handwriting. I thought it was second, but it's sound because it's very long, so I forgot what the actual title of the album is.
Yeah,
but the title is Every Sound Has Its Color in the Valley of Night by Night Verses.
Okay.
We've listened to them before. We listened to the album before this from them. The name of which From the Gallery of Sleep is what the album we listened to. They are kind of an instrumental post-metal band with a wide variety of other influences going on, but there's definitely enough quite heavy moments that I would call them rather firmly post-metal. in so much as post metal has a very broad definition anyway,
right.
The same way that post rock does, where there's, no two post metal bands are going to sound remotely alike. They're just like, they have certain elements one would find in metal and other things. So they're a post metal band.
Right.
Like they obviously don't sound anything like Neurosis, which is, I feel like Neurosis is the archetypal post metal band.
Yeah.
But to me also, if you take a post rock band, which I feel like post rock as a term is a little bit more unified as a genre in what it sounds like, especially today. There's a bit more of a like well-defined sound. If you take that post rock sound and then crank up the intensity, to me that's, well, it's a post metal band in the same way that if you take rock and crank up the intensity, you get metal.
Is there a post death?
Probably. They probably aren't called that, but there's probably some bands out there you could argue are that. I don't know if I ever listened all the way through that weird ambient thing that Blood Incantation did.
Okay.
But maybe that's because they're a death metal band. Maybe you could call that a post death metal. I don't know.
And you know what? And here, I hate to
is that what deathcore is? Is deathcore post death metal?
Post death. I would hate to say that there is actually one artist that should be considered post black metal.
Panopticon?
Oh, well, I guess Panopticon would qualify.
I thought you were saying that because I'm wearing the shirt right now.
Panopticon. Well, I was going to say that and Mr. Louis Cachet.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Varg does kind of fit in there.
Yeah.
That's sort of all. It's weird that and it's always been the case, despite the fact that the thing that Burzum is post.
Yeah.
Being second wave black metal was a year old at the time he was starting Burzum. Like Norwegian black metal had just become a thing and he was already iterating on it to such a degree that you could call it post black metal.
Yeah.
But anyway, we don't need to talk about that asshole too much. So next week, Night Versus. Every sound has its color in the Valley of Night. I kind of like really stupidly long album names. There's a certain charm to them. But anyway, until you hear us talk about that next time, why don't you go ahead and follow us on our social media pages. We're on Facebook and we're on the website formerly known as Twitter. Otherwise, go ahead and subscribe to our feed using whatever podcast service you use. Like the one you're using to listen to us right now. How about that?
There you go.
Convenient. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Medalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
Congratulations. These cords are short. My headphone cords, that is.